All right, what is going on, guys? It is Adam, a.k.a. Marf, and today's show is going to be packed. We have a ton of stuff to go over, including Putin, of course, a lot of stuff going on the border of Ukraine, and, of course, one of our officials, Blinken, actually said they don't know if they are planning to invade or not. So we'll talk about that, plus a lot more, so stick around right after this. Nothing in the show should be considered legal, medical, or financial advice. The views of the callers can differ considerably and do not necessarily reflect my opinion, Dex's opinion, or anyone else who works with the show. You should always do your own research and consult with professionals. The internet is full of fake news, so please take everything with a grain of salt. If you have not already, it helps us out if you end up going through any of our affiliates, and it helps you out if you end up protecting yourself against cybercrime. NordVPN is one of the best and one of the easiest to use. If you do not have a virtual private network, it protects your IP address, which is your online identity, which actually connects to your real address and everything else. It also connects to you. If you know anything about how they are data logging and basically getting your profiles down, you can prevent that by having a VPN. Nord is, again, one of the easiest. Download it. It's like an on switch and off switch. All you have to do. Go to marfooglenews.com/VPN. Not only will you get a giant discount on this, but you will also be helping us. I appreciate your support, and I appreciate everyone that goes through any of our affiliates. Can't say thank you enough. All right, what is going on, guys? It is Adam, a.k.a. Marf, and this is Marfoogle News. If you've never been here before, remember, today's show can be followed over at marfooglenews.com, and every picture, tweet, video, archive document that we're going to show you here today, we gave you sources for over on Marfoogle News. Not only can you sign up for Marfoogle News alerts through our private email system, you can also follow along. You can actually read the articles with us, or you can go back retrospectively and check my work. Most of the time, we want to have something backing up our work. Sorry about that. We want to have something backing up our work, and in that case, you actually have our sources, so it's all right there. Now, on this webpage, you will also find that there is a yellow bar down at the bottom. Once you get there, that is basically stuff that is too hot for TV or stuff that people are getting knocked off for. That is all on our website. There's an entire other show down there. Tons and tons of stuff. Of course, this tweet had a lot of people talking. We'll talk about that later. And then on the right side, if you do want to support us, we are independent. We don't have a multi-billion-dollar company behind us. We have you. On the right side are all of our affiliates, and any of those, basically, you will, in most cases, get a discount, and you'll be helping your favorite channel at the same time. They give us a commission of any of the sales, or in some cases, if you want to donate during, the show on PayPal or buy something off of Amazon, it will cost you nothing, but it will help us at the same time. So that is there. Let's bring in my co-host / internet brother, Dex James. What is going on, and how are you doing today?
Oh, well, hello, Adam, and hello, Foogle fam. I am doing just fine.
So a lot is happening right now. Of course, in the last couple days, we have had a lot of weird changes. Of course, Jack Dorsey stepped down the same day that the Maxwell trial started. Some pretty odd things. And then, of course, we are going back to talking about Russia and China at the same time. They both have big news coming out. So we'll cover that here in just a minute. I do want to remind you, make sure to hit the subscribe button. They've made it smaller and harder to see. It used to be a big red button, but make sure you go look right underneath me. There is a subscribe button there somewhere. And then make sure to follow us over on Marfoogle, at Marfoogle on Twitter. All right, let's get right into it. It says Russia may press criminal charges in 2018 ISS pressure leak incident. It says that in 2018, astronauts aboard the International Space Station plugged a 2-millimeter hole in a Suez MS-09 vehicle that had docked with the station in June of that year. While the pressure leak never posed an immediate threat to those aboard, it set a bizarre turn of events that saw Russia open an investigation and find out that the incident was a result of sabotage. So, Dex, first of all, are they, so again, this is something that when we covered this, I believed that it was Russia behind this, or that it was their mistake, or maybe I'm confusing several of these ISS events. I know that they were at fault of the entire ISS supposedly getting pushed aside or something because of their rocket docking. What was the deal with this?
Well, they're claiming that this person went into their capsule and drilled a hole in it, and they were hoping to. They had a desire, I guess, to return to Earth for citing some reason. Either there was a potential conflict with another crew member, or that there was something else going on.
So they were basically like poking a hole in the side of the boat, hoping that they would go back to dock or something. Pretty wild stuff. So if that is true, then they are basically going to try to press charges or international charges. It says the RIA Novosti article references Russian media reports that allege the hole may have been drilled by NASA astronaut Serena Anun Chancellor. It says a crew member of the ISS at the time of the incident, specifically per Russia's TASS news agency, which is one of their mouthpieces. It says the country's Izvestia newspaper claimed Anun Chancellor may have drilled the hole out of a desire to return to Earth because of a blood clot or a fight with her on board the International Space Station. Citing its own source, TASS claims that the hole had been drilled in weightlessness by a person not acquainted with the spaceship's design. So either she had, and I don't even know if we can say that, right? She had
I think they said she had a love interest up there that didn't work out. That's what they're claiming. Oh my gosh.
Well, I mean, that's a little bit higher than Mile High, but yeah, I guess that would happen. You're in a small capsule for a very, very long time, you would think. And we do have a history of crazy NASA love romances. If you remember, we covered that story where do you remember that, Dex, when the NASA lady drove across the country in a diaper because she didn't want to stop? So she wore a diaper and literally had ropes, gloves, and everything because she was going to kidnap her love triangle victim or whatever. That was pretty wild. But on this end, I mean, obviously this is a little bit more interesting than people thought it was. When it came out, a lot of people were saying this is BS because they said that somebody plugged it with their thumb or plugged it with their finger, and then they ended up plugging it with something like, I don't think it was gum. They originally plugged it with their finger and then used epoxy to plug. And then everybody was like, even if there's a little hole, from what we've seen, or from what, we know from movies and other things, I guess most people assume that it would bust out the whole side. And even if there's a tiny hole, that would lose all pressure and the whole thing would go kaboom or something. That's what I thought when I first heard it, right? Because we're obviously, we hear we see a lot of stuff in the movies. If there's even the tiniest hole, then the whole wall opens up and everybody gets sucked out and freezes immediately or something. But they said that didn't happen, and they were able to plug it with their finger at first. That was what happened. So now there's accusations flying. One thing I want to point out is we have seen that between Russia and the U.S., they have been throwing these things back and forth. There's a lot of rhetoric. Most people think that this is just the typical kind of circus that they've been doing. At some point, now we have new news and new information coming out today that will further kind of, prove there's something bigger going on here. There's multiple countries talking about this. And I also want to remind people that we are so far away from WW2 as far as most of this generation and even the last. They weren't around for it, and they don't know what it looks like beforehand. We have kind of, I guess in our lifetime, we've seen so many times where it comes to a peak and then comes back down, that it's kind of like the wolf, the boy who cries wolf as far as, WW3. A lot of experts actually say we are already in WW3, that cyber attacks, all sorts of things are already happening, but they're doing it on the low. And again, we've had multiple Space Force commanders. These are high up military members just this week say that there is a cyber conflict going on above our heads. And that's funny because people got removed from the internet for suggesting that just 6 months ago. And now you have actual confirmation from Space Force commanders and high up military ranking members that were, of course, pulled right out of the Air Force high ranking officers. So it's not, Bob from Vice magazine. It's actual commanders. So, and then most people want to look at this, especially I know that a good chunk of us want to say it's all a distraction. It's all this, but you have to understand at some point it's not going to be. And all of the countries of the world are trying to, they're all speaking about this. The entire world has been flipped upside down, especially since the end of 2019 when all of this other stuff popped up. And by the way, that has popped up. We'll talk about that here in a minute.
If we're going to conflict at some point, or if there's going to be a stronger conflict at some point between, U.S. allies, U.S. and Russia, it makes sense that you're going to start to see rhetoric start to fly across all of the different aspects, whether it be Olympics to the ISS, right? And that's what we're seeing here. And when you look at NASA's statement, they pretty much clear her in the sense that they said they had the tracking data, they knew where all of the astronauts were on the ship before the leak and when the leak started, and they were nowhere near it because they have all that data and they shared that data. So I mean, they could be lying, I guess, but at least their story sounds credible, and it sounds like a story they gave back in 2018 with all the data to help do the investigation.
Well, again, the quote from NASA is, "These attacks are false and lack any credibility." That was NASA Administrator Bill Nelson, which we've covered before. "I fully support Serena and stand behind all of our astronauts. We've reached out to NASA for additional information." And so far, there's no more information regarding the actual responses from them, but we'll see and we'll follow it. I know that some of you are interested in this, and again, I know that some of you are not and adamantly against anything happening in space, and I totally understand that. But again, it's part of what the mainstream narrative is, so we cover it. And then oil prices have tanked so hard, traders are assuming planes won't fly for 3 months. Now, Dex, what are they? Do you want to go over this as far as, obviously the headline gets people thinking, right?
Yeah, so I think what you're going to see and what we're seeing already is that the price of oil has dropped dramatically. And it's because people, the price of oil is based on futures. And, in the summertime, it goes up because everybody knows everyone's traveling. Well, what they're seeing right now is with the CV variant that's out there, everyone's panicking in the sense that in the industry, especially around travel, saying, hey, all of a sudden travel is it's going to be non-existent. Like it had just restarted. We were using tons of, of oil and fuel for planes. And now, it's all going to, be non-existent if this continues. So that's what they're saying is the future of oil prices are going to go down. So that's why oil has dropped. And I guess actually we should start to see gas prices at the pump go down, which would be nice.
Well, so Jen Psaki today at the meeting was asked a question. And again, I watched those press conferences, so you don't have to. But again, I would highly recommend going and watching today's. I'll talk about it here in just a minute about all of the things that have changed since the literal day after Black Friday. The response team has been meeting now, and now we're seeing these daily briefings, right? It's getting us all into this rotating kind of thing where we're all tuned in, right? And again, this time not so many people are tuned into these, but more and more. Jen was asked a very specific question about this and said, why has oil prices come down, but yet the gas prices are still up? And what she said is that they are looking into it as far as if some of these gas stations or a lot of them are gouging customers unnecessarily. Like the oil has come down, why isn't the prices? And they're possibly trying to get extra money out of it, thinking everybody assumes it's very high, so they're just pricing it high and gouging them as far and as much as they can while they can. So they say they're looking into that. There's also some weird stuff going on with oil in general as far as the reserves and the trading and the things that we've covered previous in the last couple weeks. What was that, Dex?
Yeah, I was going to say, I think maybe she's just not as educated on how that works, because it seems to me that the refined oil that shows up at the gas station, it takes many weeks for it to go from crude oil to that, to the end at the pump. And so when prices drop in the market like this, they don't drop at the gas station that day. It takes a little time for it to work through, and the whole competitive nature of every gas station at every corner starting to drop a penny to beat the one next to them because they just got their supply in and paid a lot less. It takes about a week or so for that to start to filter in. I mean, I've already seen gas prices drop a few pennies around here, but it doesn't happen the same day. There's a little delay in that process.
Well, she basically was BSing, and I have to say, all of the House whips, or whatever you want to, what do you call her? She's the, what is it? Her technical.
She's the press secretary for the president.
So the press secretary, or a whip, or whatever you want to call her, her whole job is to take every single question. And back in the day, it was like they didn't know what questions were asked. I think for the most part that, she is asked questions that definitely would not be able to be handled by the gentleman above her, because he would need it on paper and need the answer all right there. But as far as the questions that they ask her, I do see her get caught off guard, and you can see it in her face. Like she gets kind of sideswiped. The questions have been aggressively getting more. This is what I love, though. If you're watching the press secretary and all the media are asking a lot of the right questions. I mean, at least a lot more of them are. At one point, it was like they were all just going with it. A lot of them are asking, like, why are you doing these restrictions and all of this, and how bad is this going to get? One gentleman said, when is this going to end? Is this ever going to end? Are you just, actually two people basically phrased it different ways, said, are you now saying to go get something, so not to prevent, to pass it on, but just basically to reduce the stuff from it, right? And saying, are you just getting us used to just having this around forever? And where was the promise that he said last year, saying, we'll get rid of this and it's going to be gone. We're going to get rid of the whole thing. Yet it is now right now it's about 2 years in, and we're still going strong. And even now, there's new restrictions being put in place. So we will see. We'll talk about it in a minute, because it is it's pretty obvious what is happening. It says, Alec, exclusive, the trigger wasn't pulled. I didn't pull the trigger. So it says that now actor Alec Baldwin told ABC News' George Stephanopoulos in an exclusive interview that he had, quote, no idea how a live bullet got into the set of his film, Rust, but that he didn't pull the trigger. And then it said, I would never point a boom boom at anyone and pull the trigger at them. Never. Baldwin told Stephanopoulos at the first look at the upcoming interview, which is produced by George Stephanopoulos Productions. It will air Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern on ABC and will begin streaming on Hulu later that evening. It says someone put a live bullet in the boom boom, a bullet that wasn't even supposed to be on the property. So I don't understand that, because I heard that they had live ammunition the whole time, or they were doing things later, earlier that morning. Do you know? I mean, like,
yeah. I mean, come on. This is kind of this is just, to me, this sounds like showmanship. This is not like reality. How many scenes have you ever seen in a movie where the gun it's fired in the first person, not the first person, but in the receiving person point of view from a camera? Okay, that has to be pointed at a camera, which is usually on the shoulder or on, a tripod with a camera operator behind it. Okay, this is not, to say that they've never done that, ever done that. I mean, come on, that's how you do it. That's why there's all these security protocols in place, because they have to make scenes like that, okay? And so, I don't know. This sounds like...
He's saying he would never pull the trigger. So on the movie, he might have pointed it at somebody, but he wouldn't pull the trigger. What is he saying? That it reacted?
How can you But how can you say that? It's not you, but how could he say that when the scene, not the one they were filming, but just go find any movie scene where someone is pulling the trigger and it's going off and it's pointed at the camera? You think they just keep the finger on the side? No, that's just nonsense, I think. And to say that, so and also think a lot of, like the rest of this is just probably posturing for himself. Yeah, it's kind of crazy. He's probably better off to keep his mouth shut, in my opinion. But he's kind of interesting to hear him talk,
because that will end up in court later, and they'll end up saying, so you say you didn't pull the trigger. And he's going to say, yeah, no, I would never do that. It's like, well, yeah, I mean, honestly, at this point, we have such crazy CGI. I don't understand why they don't just have, for how real things look, if you're going to be shooting a movie, like, why don't you just have a green painted thing that's the shape of whatever it is? I mean, there are so many, I mean, they could just CGI one in. Now it has gotten to the point where it is extremely easy to CGI something like that and make it real. I mean, I guess you want it for realism, right? But at that point, you can. It's like, I guess it doesn't. It outweighs the risks, right?
Maybe he's trying to get away from the other side of his political spectrum that always says it's not the boom boom that does it, but it's people that do it. And he wants to be on the other side where they are that say boom booms kill people, not people, right? So he's saying, I didn't do it. It did it itself.
Oh, it's kind of like the SUV, right? How everybody was reporting that the SUV was to blame for this horrible event that people have already forgot about, right?
Yeah, don't blame my finger. Blame the boom boom. Don't blame the person. Blame the SUV. It was the SUV's fault.
I mean, the SUV it's big. It's thousands of pounds. Like if I saw thousands of pounds walking around, I'd be like, that guy is a real mess up. Did that SUV get charged? By the way, did the SUV actually get arrested, or do we know?
I think it's impounded at least. We can say that much.
Well, if it went to jail, it would have been impounded in the. Let's move on.
And did you miss the first tab with the tweet from Elon?
No, I've got it. I'm going to pull it up
I was
next.
making sure. I was hoping it was there.
No, and I think I have to reload it. First, though, I do want to remind you guys right now, there are still several sales going on throughout our affiliates, so make sure to go over and check at marfooglenews.com/EMP. You will find the product called EMP Shield. This is the same company that is not only worked with DHS, Department of Homeland Security, DOD, but also is on the DEMSO team helping protect the Texas grid. So the entire United States essentially has gone through these guys for one or another kind of protection from EMP or CMEs. Again, you can get, the consumers can actually get a device for their home, for your generator, for your car, for your RV. They even make models for your solar generators, your solar systems, even your ham radio. If you do want to protect yourself against all three phases, this is something that is a huge threat. We've told you, we've shown you the information, and we are going to get first dibs on some information that I believe will kind of open everybody's eyes here very soon. So I hope that everybody looks at this with a serious note, as far as, this is, again, something that is one of the biggest threats to the United States, especially. But wherever you are in the world, this works against lightning. It also works against solar flare. So it doesn't matter if you're in Europe or in Australia. If we do get another Carrington event, it doesn't really matter if you're on the top half of the planet, then you will most likely be affected. So go to marfooglenews.com/EMP. You can get $50 off per device, and that stacks on top of any sales they are doing. They just had a massive sale for Black Friday, and that may still be going. Dex, do we know if it's still going? I wasn't able to check.
I'm not sure. I'll have to check.
Okay, if it is, then it is definitely a great deal. They usually keep it going a couple days after, but once they cut it, then they cut it for a few months, and again, it will be the next kind of big sale, next holiday or something like that. So
yeah, if they didn't, there's got to be another one between now and the holiday for Christmas.
Really, it's kind of like, it's better to do it sooner than later. Obviously, you can't prepare after an event, and then. Let's see here. Yes. So this was the Elon Musk tweet. And as you can see, there's a kind of a depiction going on here, Dex. This is a very specific. What do you think he's trying to say here?
So it's Parag, I believe is how you pronounce his name, who's the new CEO. And then in the first, so if you go to the first picture at the top, it's Parag, and who's the face that's implanted, and then next to him is Dorsey, and then of course the next picture is Dorsey erased from it. And then that's all Elon had tweeted. He didn't put any words to it. He didn't put anything. And, a lot of people didn't necessarily get the reference unless you know your Russian history. But if you wanted to get the reference, that's the next tweet below. I just thought it was kind of humorous and very dark humorous of him to put this kind of tweet out.
Well, you realize the splash too. You saw the splash.
Yeah, he added the splash. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's him throwing him overboard. These are the original. It says, in case you were wondering what humor dark this collage depicts, here it is. It says, as the head of Stalin's secret police, Nikolai Yezhov oversaw the executions of more than 500,000 Soviet citizens during the Great Purge, which wording here and symbolism. And it says, after Yezhov himself was executed, the photos of Stalin and his honchos strolling along a Moscow canal was neatly updated to remove the poison dwarf, is what they called him. So that's pretty savage. And
isn't Dorsey short too? I mean, he's looked pretty scrawny and short. So it was kind of there's multiple layers of humor in this tweet from Elon.
Well, I think his diet is Twinkies and Funyuns. So I don't know.
Oh, he went paleo. He was vegan for a long time. His diet is weird.
Well, yeah. He's probably eats tie-dye vegan strips or something. The guy, he is literally the stereotype of these social media moguls that are just that are doing yoga. I mean, I've seen so many movies kind of portraying this guy, and that's Dorsey. He's got the nose ring, and he comes to Congress it looks like he's totally blazed. Confused, and he's in tie-dye, and he's like, yeah, man, I don't know. Yeah, dude. I don't know. I'll have to check my team. What I don't see is how I've seen him talk in these interviews, and I'm like, how is this guy running multi-billion-dollar companies? He must have been really professional, and then got super rich, and I don't know. I have a feeling he's in the party scene or something. But what do you think? Tell me down below. I'd love to hear your opinion. And then Thetamooned Me says, Marf, crypto, not an option, a must. Just trying to help you and the fam. DYOR. Dex can help. I get it. Well, one of my core beliefs is without computers and without power, you're not going to be able to use crypto. I know that Dex says, as he tells me, that
you won't be using dollars either, but.
Well, no, and that's why I've been stocking up on actual items, right? But if I guess they can still run if 50% of the network is still up, or some of them are better than others. Some of the cryptos are better than others. But the way that they're starting a crypto for every country, that the countries are trying to go into this decentralized. China is trying to start a decentralized gold-backed crypto. Still the fact that we don't truly know who created Bitcoin. It's this kind of stuff bothers me. I think it's just kind of right there in your face. I've never trusted it. I know there's a lot of hardcore crypto people in the audience, and especially now, people have made really good livings. Not saying I'm against it. I've wanted to get into it. I just again, part of me just says that there's something weird about it. And also, if the power goes out on the entire planet, where is that crypto going to be? You have to have computers for that. I don't know. That's just me. I'm not saying it's bad.
I could teach you about paper wallets.
I don't want to know.
Makes you feel better.
That you'd bore me to death. That Gen X dude says, where has common sense gone? A lot of gullible people nowadays. One love, Foogle fam. Exactly. Craig Alicious, remember when we funded the Ukrainian takeover? I believe I do. And, of course, that Gen X dude says, ASRK said, as Ark said, can't we all just get along? What is RK? RK, as RK said. RK. It's a famous.
It's not. Ronnie King.
Oh, okay, got it. And then Bible Talk for, yes, can't we all just get along? And then Bible Talk for Common People, Eve strikes again in the space garden. And then Kimberlyn Rule, thank you so much for your early support of the show. Kessa Deepin, Bill P, and thank you, everybody. By the way, a couple people went over last night, or today, actually, one of them. Delaware Sasquatch, thank you for your massive support through PayPal. It says, keep doing what you're doing. Hope to call in someday for a chat. One from the one and only Delaware Sasquatch. And then Kara H, thank you so much for your support over there. Again, for the people that do go above and beyond, thank you guys. We appreciate it. The more that we cover the crazier stuff, the less we are helped out by anyone else. So thank you. All right. And then FAA has questions for U.S. about Army about spectacular Titans football game flyover. It says 4 U.S. Army helicopters had flown extremely low over Nashville's Nissan Stadium, prompting cheers as well as concerns and criticisms. So these actual helicopters went super low. It says the Federal Aviation Administration has been in contact with the U.S. Army's 101st Airborne Division about a flyover earlier this month at Nissan Stadium in Nashville, Tennessee. 4 helicopters, 2 AH-64s, and a CH-47 Chinook, and a Blackhawk, so Apaches, Chinooks, and Blackhawks, from a unit assigned to that division flew extremely low over the stadium at the start of a football game between the Tennessee Titans and the New Orleans Saints. Though that there has been no formal review of the flyover so far, experts and observers have since raised safety concerns about the event. The investigative team at News Channel 5, a CBS-affiliated television in Nashville, first reported on the FAA reaching out to the 101st Airborne Division, which is based, of course, in Fort Campbell in neighboring Kentucky yesterday. The flyover at Nissan Stadium took place on November 14, 2021, and was part of a salute to service for men and women of the United States Armed Forces, and the Titans organization incorporated it into that game that day. So really here, the video is pretty crazy because it is probably the lowest you will see a helicopter over a mass amount of people. I can only imagine how the wind was right underneath this. Dex, did you watch this video all the way through?
Yeah, and everybody should go watch the video. I don't think we can play it, but you can certainly zoom in on the thumbnail alone and see how close it is. And the very first picture, I want to say, is one of the Apaches. It's a front camera view from the Apache itself. These guys flew literally just over the top of the scoreboards there. And it was I've never seen anything that close, at least in a stadium setting like this, right? And they're usually much higher. They'll do flyovers all the time, but these guys were just right on there. And if you look at the very first video thumbnail and you zoom in next to the play button, you could probably see the 2 Apaches up front and how low they are in comparison to the top row of the stadium.
Well, see, and they went over the screen, the actual distance between this one and then the people down here, because there's no, the bleachers go up to about here, is not that bad. It's not unheard of. But when you're talking about how, when they went up here, I mean, this is like, I don't know, 30 feet if it was to go over these ones, right? But it went through the middle and it shot through and it cut the stadium. I think that it's pretty badass. I wish I would have seen this in real life. When you are close. Oh, so here's another thing. I did take video, and you may have watched me earlier this year. They've been doing a lot of weird drills. Now, this is obviously they do this kind of thing a lot with these games. But what I saw was a Blackhawk backed up by Flight Radar and Foogle Fam, actually, right when I announced it and posted the pictures. Fugel fam were right on it. They tracked them. They saw that they were doing all these weird maneuvers, going and dropping people and picking people off for an exercise off of roofs, and it was not announced. There was no news about it. The freaky thing was, though, is this Black Hawk was going between 2 apartment buildings, and there must have been, there was no space. It was not even this high. The street was here. It was probably 30 feet up off of the ground, and they went through this main street, one of the main streets that goes through, I guess you would call it Soto, but there was 2 apartment buildings, and it went right through it. And you can clearly see that on the video that I posted. I mean, it was incredibly low. People that were on their deck, if it was, maybe 10, 15 feet over, they would be chopped up by it. People said that their whole house shook. People from that apartment came out. That's in the video that I took. It shows the people all coming out like, what the hell's going on? People thought that it was war, conflict. But that was one of their kind of secretive drills. So these guys are really professional. I don't think anyone was in danger. As far as these guys can go through, tight spaces with these things. Like, we've got a badass Air Force. These guys are absolutely awesome. Would you have liked to see this in person? I sure would have.
The fans loved it. When you watch the video, the fans loved it.
Oh, so they go nuts.
Yeah, it was great. I would have loved to have seen that. I've been to many flyovers. This is more like being at an air show where they're much more up close, because this was pretty close. It would have been a cool experience for those folks that were there. But obviously, some people are upset about it.
Karens, man. By the way, Lead Dispenser, thank you so much, says, I'm testing the theory of what comes around goes around. Well, Lead Dispenser, thank you. I sure hope it does come around. And the second one says, this one is for Dex. Guy, great work, which it will go. So thank you. Again, thank you so much for the support. Half of that will go to Dex. So thank you so much. Delaware Sasquatch Baldwin, it wasn't me. It was the one-armed man. Divine 1122, Light of Love, everyone. Surplus Prepper, much love, fam. One Aunt B. Truth Wins, Lurker 1, Queen BTP, Scooby Doo Do Right, One Aunt B, and Carrie Ray. Thank you so much. Divine 1122 says it's amazing time to be alive. Lead Dispenser says being a Mason is a meme. Trust me, is a meme. I don't know what that means, but yeah. I wonder if you're saying that Masons aren't real or something. I don't know. I actually got my friend Dave into the whole Masons thing, and he's researching it because he knew Masons, and he thought, oh no, they're all normal people. I said, if you dig deeper, you'll find it, and he was just blown away by some of the stuff that he found. Unless
when you started that sentence, it sounded like you got your friend into the Masons.
No. I basically showed him all of the stuff because he did not know that there was any weird stuff. He thought that they were, most people don't realize that above the 33rd degree, that stuff is like I've heard stories of them having them denounce their belief of Christ and all this other stuff.
I had that debate with an old neighbor of mine who joined, and it just didn't work. I tried to have that conversation, and he didn't want to hear it. But
people are trained to say it's a conspiracy.
I'm not there, so I don't know. I've never been in those doors, but
So Dave told me about how what he was told is like that they do these rituals and stuff. Here's the crazy part about the Masons. All of their stuff was passed down through verbal communications. So the higher degree, they do these huge, like, 20-page things that they have to memorize. And they're weird. Like, they're weird stories or weird, I forget what, there's a word for it, but there's weird stories that they have to remember. And these have been passed down since the Middle Ages or longer, whenever when they started. So they don't go anywhere on paper, or I don't know. I mean, how do they even memorize it if they don't have an ability to like print it? Or do they print it and then they have to burn it? Is it like one of those, like, this message will self-destruct in 5 minutes? I don't really get it. But there's a lot of weird memorization and rituals. Like, A lot of rituals. And they're all connected. If you are in them, basically they get good jobs and they take care of their own. They're like a brotherhood. CEOs and insiders sell a record $69 billion of their stock, and the year isn't over yet. So, Dex, we've talked about the CEO exodus, and most of you know my opinion on this. Something is going on, in my belief, and it sounds like they're dumping stock before some sort of bad event. But what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's clear that they either A, know that the economy's about to go bad, or B, know there's some other reason why they need to exit, or it's both of the things, really, right? But it's interesting when you see all that insider trading, and of course, on the flip side, back in the heydays of great economies and stuff, you would see some of that too, because they were just cashing out, right? You'd cash out and then turn around and go, use that money and invest it in other things. We saw Elon, dump a whole bunch of his stuff, but it was more for political statement, I think, against Bernie and others, because of all the comments about him being too rich. But yeah, this is definitely you should take it as a warning sign. You should pay attention to when this stuff's going on, like what is the meaning behind it and why are they actually doing it?
I don't know, but $69 billion worth of stocks, it sounds like they're getting out before change happens. Now, this is why this freaks me out. Do you remember what happened and why people got mad at about 5 or 6 of the people that were in the committees when CV started? Dex, do you remember that? Everybody looked at them because the people that were in the secret meeting that knew about this whole event before it happened, they all got out of their stocks before we went on lockdown, before we went on all of that, right? And they got caught. Mainstream media said these 5 people, what they did was technically, I think they said it wasn't like technically illegal, but they were trying to find a way to make it illegal because it was messed up. It was like they went to the secret meeting and found out about what was going on, and they dumped their stocks. Now we have more dumping, right as we have the new, and of course all of these other restrictions, which, mind you, started on Saturday, announced Saturday, the day after Black Friday. It's like all the corporations, they got their money, boom, drop it like it's hot. And now we're getting, basically our brains are like, daily White House briefings of what the situation is. It's kind of like history is repeating itself. Oh, and then China telling all of its citizens at the very beginning of the month, in early November, before this thing popped up, right, to have extra food and to get supplies, which sent all of China into a panic buy, just like we did when we cleared out every shelf and Costco was empty and you couldn't get toilet paper for months actually. They sent their people in, and then when they said, no, we're not going to war, we're not taking Taiwan. No, we don't worry about it. It's just in case you have to go into lockdown again. They're like, oh, thank gosh. So what do you think is about to happen? People go, oh, my state wouldn't do it. If there's new information that comes out, they will flip in a hot second. Fear is what pushes everything, right? So they're dumping stocks as all of this is going on. So maybe something's down the road. Who knows? Future unknown. And then Russia plans to make aggressive moves to destabilize Ukraine, U.S. official warns. It says Secretary of State Anthony Blinken warned on Wednesday that the U.S. is, quote, deeply concerned by evidence that Russia has made plans for significant aggressive moves against Ukraine. Now, remember, there was intelligence, and Ukrainian president actually said that they were planning in a very specific month, January, February, right around there of this next year. So we're talking about in a month to 2 months away, they may be taking parts of Ukraine. That is what the Ukrainian president's initial intelligence said. And I want to say NATO. Either way, now the U.S., Anthony Blinken is saying that and confirming something. It says, should Moscow move forward with such actions, Blinken said that America and NATO allies would undertake a range of high-impact economic measures that we've refrained from using in the past. Remember yesterday, NATO basically said that we could make it hurt. There's like 30 allies in NATO or 39, whatever. It's over 30. That they could use their member states and they could basically put the pressure on them, not do business with certain things, or charge tariffs or whatever they do on the economic side. It says, while economic actions could be imminent, Blinken and NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg would not commit to the use of military action in a bid to defend Ukraine, which is not a member of NATO, but is recognized as an aspiring member. That's right, an aspiring member. We don't know whether President Putin has made the decision to invade. Dex, so that quote right there, that's a big one.
Yeah, absolutely. What he says in this paragraph here, this specific quote from Blinken, is pretty strong, at least in the sense that he's talking about the short order and the fact that they're basically ready. They just need to decide if they're going to pull the trigger. When I say they, he's talking about the Russians.
Alec Baldwin? Oh, he didn't pull it.
Yeah, Putin will admit when he pulls it.
Yeah, Putin's not afraid of, because they already took Crimea. They already took parts of it back. So that's the thing. And my theory, and this is my personal theory, and you don't have to go along with it, Foogle fam. Let me get a vote, actually, from the audience. This is actually a good one to do. All right. Here's the vote, and I want everybody to participate. Try not to do like 7-2-5 or something. How many people believe that if Russia takes Ukraine, that at the same time China will take Taiwan? Press 1 if you believe that they'll both go at the same time, or 2, you will think that they will be separate events. 1 if you think that either one of them does their invasion, that the other will do it at the same time. Remember, they're close allies, and it equally pisses off the world because they're taking 2 places. Dex, I don't know if you can see that, but
all I see is ones.
Yeah, there's a few
twos in there. I'm just kidding, but yeah, there's a lot of ones.
That is a lot of ones, and this is we have over 4,000 in chat. And a couple smart Alex. But that's okay. You're still Foogle fam. OMG, that's so many ones. The name went by so fast I couldn't see it.
The real question is, when this happens, will we do anything? Like, will we do anything in a hot manner, right? Or will we just use political words, let it happen, kind of like Crimea, say we're going to do some sanctions for a few years, slap them on the wrist, you shouldn't do that? Or are we going to allow, the industrial complex to, play with their toys and spin off a whole bunch of munitions that cost millions of dollars so they can replace them and get more money?
Well, okay, so Dex, remember when I had that person that said that they said, oh, well, we're not going to have any more serious restrictions. The president just said yesterday that that there would be no more lockdowns. Believing a president is like, that's basically like telling somebody what color the sky is as a definite. It's like at 6 o'clock, it's going to be orange. At 8 o'clock, it's going to be black, right? he also told us that they didn't have the power to force anything to do this, or also said he would stand up for Taiwan, and then like a week later goes, oh, one China policy. It's like we've had so many flip-flops on so many things in the last 2 years. I'm not going to believe a single politician until actual actions happen. I don't know about you, Dex, but it just seems like everything has been flip-flopping lately. Oh, and then for the last 2 years, being told one thing and then another, and then one thing and then another, one thing, then another. It's just, it's like, oh, 2 weeks, 2 years, same thing.
Well, and our military, rightfully so, is pounding the chest and saying they want to be prepared and saying they want to spend money so that they can be prepared for these conflict, right? And that's what their job is. Obviously, you wouldn't expect them to say that they're in the business of planting flowers and making everybody happy, right? So totally get it. But I definitely am questionable on what's going to happen at the administration side, which is the ones pulling, the one that would be the one in charge of actually doing it. Them and Congress, if they actually will do something, or if we will just stand by and let it happen.
Well, I guess we'll have to wait and see. My feeling is, and I'm going to show you an article here in a second. This is why I think that we'll get involved, and I think it will be a repeat of WW2. We'll end up jumping in after the fact.
Yeah, and real quick though, before you leave this, I just want to note that Blinken's statement, his public statement, was pretty significant in that he said that they had they were putting the capacity in place on short order. Okay, so what that means to everybody is that our intelligence and what we're saying as the U.S. is that Russia is putting everything they need in place in short order, as in ASAP, to do a potential invasion. So it's not just a drill. It's not just drills. They're putting everything they need in place in a hurry to do it.
Again, this is the highlighted part. That is a big statement from Blinken. So make sure to, if you can, share the show out. I think that we are very, very close. If not, at this point, we may be in the period of a couple months. And that is based on actual intel from multiple countries telling us that that's going to happen, including our own. So who knows? I don't see I guess why. And then, by the way, we're going to get to something right next here in a second. Bible Talk for Common People. We should do a rally in D.C. after New Year. Say maybe January. No. Oh, well, I personally, that would be kind of funny, actually. On the 6th, go over there. And then, Dex, I can teach you paper wallets. Marf, I don't want to know. This is what I'm talking about, Marf. Just give it a true session of learning, says Theta Mooned Me. No, I get you guys. Trust me, I will do it eventually, but probably after SHTF. Red Pilled says, love what you do. We are more serious preppers now because of you. Glad to be part of the Foogle fam. I guess it's like, I firmly believe, like, I firmly believe we're not going to have computers. So that is my opinion. So I have 4 kids. I have heavily, gotten into physical items. You know what I mean? So I guess it's one thing or the other. And I know Dex is the total opposite. Well, he does both, but again, I get what you're saying. Diversification. A
little bit of everything.
I've diversified too. I just haven't gone into that route. Red Pill, love what y'all do. We are more serious because of this show. Glad to be part of the Foogle fam. And then Renee Alera says, Adam and Dex, I have so much respect for both of you, my family, and I don't watch the news anymore. Only Marfoogle News. That Gen X dude says, Blackhawks over my house today twice. Yeah, that's we've been seeing a lot around here in Seattle. Kimberlyn Rule, thank you again. Bill P, thanks for being the last one out last show. And then over on D Live, I just want to say thank you to Hashling and Slasher. Thank you for the diamonds over there. Lead Dispenser, thank you for starting fires over there. Says, drop your lemons like it's hot. Drop it like it's hot. Raining Diamonds, thank you, Surplus Prepper. I appreciate that. And it's nice to see you in here again. Miss Jackson 906 says, Michigan closed lots of schools today due to 2 bang threats. Yep. You're going to see a lot of that in the news, I bet. I think those are personally, a lot of it is distraction. That's my opinion, but we do cover them usually in the web only, unless they're really big, then they'll end up on the main show. And then Sal Rain Oss, thank you for following. A lot of new followers over on D Live. I don't know if there's something going on over there, but Donato, Money My Chains, and Tho Almighty, thank you for following. If you're still with us tonight, thank you so much. And then hundreds of Taiwanese extradited to China. Before we do that, I do want to remind you, make sure to go over right now. Again, there are many sales going on through all of our affiliates. Make sure to go over and check if you are, again, because you might be watching this as a replay. Make sure to go over and check. You can get pretty much everything, Essentials of Life, at marfooglenews.com/prep. It is a one-stop shop for pretty much everything from short and long-term survival food, water filtration, air purification, survival gear, cooking gear, and tools. Very specifically, I highly recommend, of course, long shelf food, but the Alexa Pure Pro as far as water filtration. Either way, doesn't matter who you go through, you need to get some sort of water purification. Everybody should have it. This is why 90% of us would perish if we had an EMP or a CME, is because we would not have drinkable, potable water. That's where that 90% comes from that government DHS statement. They believe 90% of the U.S. would die because we would not have fresh water. So if everybody did this, I bet you the whole country would be way better off. This is another thing that I think that should almost be kind of worked in some way. You know, if you're going to give out free money, they should give out free prep or free stuff that can actually help people on a long term, right? Or if they know that something is coming, why don't they start giving these out? marfooglenews.com/prep. It not only helps the show, but it also helps yourself prepare. Thank you guys for doing that. That goes through My Patriot Supply. Thank you, everybody that has already done so. I appreciate each and every one of you. And again, this show would not be running without your help. And again, if you'd like to see us in a year, hopefully people will still continue to support. And then Lead Dispenser, again, thank you, and thank you. All right, and then Dex, as far as the Taiwanese that are extradited, one thing that when you first read a headline like that, you're like, well, wait, what's going on? But obviously it's like they consider themselves an independent country, and China is basically trying to grab people that are part of this thing. It says a new report by human rights groups has found that more than 600 Taiwanese arrests overseas have been deported to China in recent years. It says safeguard defenders say that the practice was being used as a tool to undermine Taiwan's sovereignty. Taiwan, which considers itself an independent country, has long insisted that Taiwanese arrested or convicted overseas should be sent back home. But Beijing sees Taiwan as a breakaway province that is part of China. Safeguard defenders said that the deportations, which it collated from media reports between 2016 through 2019, were being used to bolster Beijing's influence abroad and accused China of hunting down these Taiwanese. It says the Spain-based group pointed out that the Taiwanese being sent to China, quote, have no roots and no families, and warned that they were at risk of persecution and severe human rights abuses. It argues that several nations are breaching international human rights laws in following the extradition treaties with Beijing, and singled out Spain and Kenya for extraditing the most number of Taiwanese people to China. It says China in the past has argued that the Taiwanese suspects in some cases should be extradited to China, as their victims included mainland Chinese. No information was provided in the report of the fate of the Taiwanese extradited to China, but the group noted that at least 2 were shown on Chinese TV giving public apologies. So, Dex, do you think that they're just trying to, what is this? Is this posturing? I mean, like,
yeah, so this is just yet another way of, of how they are trying to take back Taiwan without necessarily firing a shot, right? And they're picking away at any little thing they can. And they'll do all of these things. They've been doing it for a long time. Obviously, this has been going on for years, but if you're from Taiwan and you're in another country and you get in trouble and you get deported because maybe, you got into some trouble or you got into a bar fight, I don't know, whatever, right? And
you go back to mainland.
Another country. You don't go back to Taiwan. They send you back to China because China struck a deal with that country saying you're going to do this or, you're going to have trouble with us. And of course, these other countries are like, yes, yes, Father China will do what you say, right? Which is unfortunate because then they do that. They're not adhering to, what
one
Taiwan
China
is.
Policy.
Right.
So just to be clear, if you're in Kenya or Spain or somewhere else, you are Taiwanese, you're born in Taiwan, you don't have, your whole family's in Taiwan, you're in Spain, you get a serious offense, or maybe you're just accused. You get extradited and sent back to mainland China, which they don't have the same laws whatsoever. It's an independent country, but the rest of the world has bowed down to China so they don't lose billions of dollars. It's like, it's not exactly like this, but say you are American and you're in Europe for vacation and you get accused of murder, and then China, or I guess I wonder if there's a closer example, but it would be like then you getting extradited to China because China says, oh, well, the USA is ours now. It's a one world policy. I get that Taiwan was under Chinese power at one point, but they are a completely self-governing democracy now. That's basically their own country. That's the view of many.
Yeah, and think of this. It doesn't just mean that you have to commit a crime in that other country, right? For that country to want to deport you. It could also mean that China comes to that other country and says that you have committed a crime in China or to China, and they want to extradite you. Sort of like we were trying to extradite what's his name from WikiLeaks? We were trying to pull him into the U.S. Yeah, Assange, right? We were trying to extradite Assange from the UK and from, the other place before, because he committed crimes that we said were against America, right? That was our take on pulling him back. Now, they could just literally be doing this to pick on Taiwanese, influential people, right? They're not just going to go after every Tom, Dick, and Harry, but it's like, if there's certain key political figures, certain key players that are in these other countries, China can say, ooh, I'm going to go in and I'm going to say they committed a crime in China or to China, and we want to extradite them. And then they pluck them out of that country, and that's their way of sort of dismantling Taiwan, one nick at a time.
Yeah, and of course, Taiwan is a big subject right now. We have former Japan. This is what I was kind of saying with what I've heard. Former Japan Prime Minister tells China a Taiwan emergency is a Japanese emergency. We've talked about this a lot in the last 6 months as far as, what if Japan does step in, and they say they will. And most people do believe them because they are pretty serious about this. They feel like if they take Taiwan, if China takes Taiwan, then next up would be somebody like Japan. It says Japan and the United States could not stand by if China attacked Taiwan, and Beijing needs to understand this. Former Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe said on Wednesday, tensions over Chinese-claimed Taiwan have risen as President Xi seeks to assert his country's sovereignty claims against the democratically ruled island. Taiwan's government says it wants peace, but it will defend itself if needed. Speaking virtually to a forum organized by Taiwanese think tank, the Institute for National Policy Research, Abe noted that the Senkaku Islands, which China calls the Diaoyu Islands, Sakishima Islands and the Yunga-Uni Island are a mere 100 kilometers or 62 miles away from Taiwan. It says an armed invasion of Taiwan would be a grave danger to Japan. It says the Taiwan emergency is a Japanese emergency and therefore an emergency for the Japan-U.S. alliance. People in Beijing, President Xi Jinping in particular, should never have a misunderstanding in recognizing this. Abe said, Japan is to host a major U.S. military U.S. base, including on the southern island of Okinawa, a short flight from Taiwan, which would be crucial for any U.S. support during a Chinese attack. The United States is bound by law to provide Taiwan with the means to defend itself, though there is ambiguity about whether it would send forces to help Taiwan in a war with China. Which, I mean, technically it shouldn't. If our allies, the ones that we are sworn to be close to and protect and step in if there's a conflict, then if it's a situation where it's affecting them, where do you stand on that? I'd love to hear from you in the comments, especially if you're a replay watcher. If you've stuck through this much of the show, or if you're listening at work, I thank you and I appreciate you. Tell me what you think in the comments down below.
And this message coming from Abe is it's pretty significant. I mean, he was a former PM not too long ago is when he stepped down, but he's still significantly influential. And to hear this coming out of that country is almost as good as hearing it coming from their current PM.
He just stepped down.
Abe's pretty significant. I mean, he's pretty huge.
Yeah, and so is it possible for you to look up the current prime minister? Is it a woman right now? I definitely I have not heard as much.
It is Fumio Kishida, and it's a gentleman.
So I haven't heard that much about the new prime minister. Actually, it's like Shinzo Abe in my mind. That was the prime minister. I didn't even hear much. We don't hear much about Japan, especially in our news. It's like, where have you noticed that? We don't really hear much about Japan at all. Maybe about Canon news or something with cameras, but don't really hear much other. And I really do look out a lot of that news, but never see anything about Japan. So not good. Oh, well, as far as the only stuff we really do see is them getting surrounded, or Russian ships circling them, or NK launching missiles over them. I mean, really, it's only conflict related that we hear stuff from. Theta Moonme, I will continue to support you probably regardless, but please give the super chat a full read. Well, I believe I did, right? And then that Gen X dude, MF, is to go to news now. Adam and Dex nail it every show. Also, back it up. Thanks, that Gen X dude, and totally right. And then Theta Moonme says, war is not inevitable, but awareness is great. Language is everything. So I personally disagree. I do believe that a world conflict will happen. I believe it is inevitable because I don't see how we've had a world conflict. I mean, for as long as we can think of, every few decades we have a world conflict. I feel like, I guess, to be positive and to be what would you say, an optimist about it, then I hope that everybody would agree and we would have world peace. So here's hoping to that. But
I guess, somebody could usher in a new order for the world and one government, and there wouldn't be any, world conflict. But
yeah, in that case, it's not good for us.
That's not necessarily what we want. But, history has certainly shown that from the dawn of time, it seems like there's always been some form of conflict.
And the fall of civilizations. It's not like, I guess it's not, what do you call it? It's not trying to be like end of the world and fear mongering. It's just how humans work. we always fight. I mean, it's just like if you are friends with somebody long enough and you spend enough time, you'll have fights. But in this case, these are countries with completely opposite views. We're talking about communist nations against democracies. Those things don't mix. And then, of course, there are some of them who are ruled by people who believe other people should not be in charge. They do some pretty horrendous things to their people. We do business with China, even though we know that there's the direct government is directly harming people and doing these horrific things. We do horrific things, but I mean, they keep it secret. China is like more like, everybody knows the stuff that they're doing. And then exclusive U.S. to collect Southern Africa passengers' data. Dex, do you want to cover this one?
Well, obviously, they're taking yet another stance on what's happening in Africa with the spread of the new variant. So they're going to be digging into all of the flight records and all of the flight and passenger information. And they're basically issuing a directive that's requiring them to disclose the passenger names and any information about anybody that's recently been in the southern African countries.
And as far as some of the videos that have come out and some of the experts and some of the officials that have talked about said that some of the strictest restrictions that we have ever had since the beginning of this, even stricter than before, are now going to happen because of this new thing that has been announced the day after Black Friday. As far as that would be Saturday. Saturday morning is when all of the agencies came out and said the OMI is the big one, and it's going to be the main focus right now. That's when they also started the response team and the presidential briefings, and now pretty much daily. It was a response team today. Jen Psaki press briefing. The day before that, it was the president. Tomorrow, it's the president again. I mean, like, it's pretty clear that a lot of things are happening in a really, really close pattern. And then they're telling us, oh, this doesn't have to happen as long as that 20% of the people do that certain thing. First of all, I don't believe it's 20%. I don't know where they get that number. If you see all of the people that are not at work right now in every field, I don't see how that would be 20%. Unless you're saying that the same people that are not getting it are in all of these important positions, like every last important position that's shutting down every company, that's shutting down every government job, that's shutting down every transportation service, every trucker. All of those people just happen to be the people that aren't getting this thing. And that's why all of these shortages are happening, right? Or they say that they're all these career people that have been at good careers, and these are not people that just flake out and go, oh, I'm going to stay home for McDonald's. These are people in actual careers that are not showing up to work because of a certain thing. So I don't understand that. Theta Moonme says, I get what you're saying with the probability of war, Marf. Look up the definition of it. Inevitable. Love you. Inevitable means it's going to happen guaranteed. That's how I actually do look at it. But I understand your view as well. And I do understand your view on crypto. I want to get into it. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I just have very strong views of what is going to happen in the future. So I guess I've got things that I'm going to have go first and then go there. One thing I also don't like about it is I'm not very good with the whole digital thing in the first place. So, but yeah, inevitable, I think. Dex, what is the definition? Inevitable is it's going to happen guaranteed, right?
Yeah.
I believe that 100%. So that's my belief. That doesn't mean that it's inevitable to you. In fact, I think that it's actually, there's something to be said about having a positive outlook and not thinking that something's inevitable. Make sure to put an M in the chat for the mods. They've been keeping it a really awesome place down there. As far as this goes, now I will go into some of this, some of the stuff that I was talking about. So again, I guess I don't know how close or right on it that you needed me to be. I never give you guys specifics. I never try to do that. I just want to point out we are everything that this person has said, and I've got more information for you on this as far as that goes. I do believe that we are going to have a lot more restrictions in the next 2 weeks. From what I heard, this is on their end, what is being told to the people at the top is that this is much more serious. They are also pushing, saying that it wouldn't be that bad if everybody got the thing. So that is actually being told to people very high up, that as long as people get this, then it will be fine. I don't understand this whole push. I don't get it. But what I do get is that history is repeating itself, and very fast. What they need is a big event to happen for things to really flip back, and all those states that you think, oh, it won't fly in this state, they need something that's so big that, the government can go, oh, well, we need to do this again. So keep that in mind. As far as on Twitter and stuff, make sure to follow me over there. Make sure to head over and check me out on Twitter at Marfoogle. That's also where I put the notification of exactly when we start live. A lot of people that are new don't understand that when the YouTube time starts, we have multiple platforms, and that's not the actual start time. We get a lot of stuff we cannot set. YouTube changed their stuff, so we can't set up a lot of stuff until we actually set up the time. So we have to, for us to have the title and the time set and the tweet and the notifications that we send out through our email system, we can't do that until we have the link. So that means when we have to do the YouTube link, when we set up that YouTube time for whatever time, we have to do that first before we even start to make our stuff to send it out to you guys. So if you want the exact showtime start, it is always going to be the tweet. The tweet is going to be the thing that you click every single night, and it's going to take you right to the show right when it actually starts, when the music starts on. So that's why we started telling people. Everybody goes, oh, if you weren't late. We're not actually ever really late. We've tried to explain that. The YouTube time is not the correct start time. Correct start time is usually about 15 minutes after that. But we could, if I didn't have 4 kids and if I wasn't a normal person, and if we had a staff of like 10 people and makeup teams and all this stuff, like we need it. But as far as if we had a whole staff and people watching my kids and stuff so I could be doing this, then yeah, we would probably have a 6 o'clock show every single night. And if we had a budget, we would probably have this and that, but we don't. It's me and Dex and the mods that do their stuff voluntarily. So these shows are kind of like, you take them or you leave them. You can either follow me or not. If you're listening to my words and you disagree with it and you hate it, the great part is you don't have to listen. I have firm beliefs, and that's because of all the people and the stuff I've done and the people I've met through the Foogle fam. I mean, we have a lot of really, really respectable people here. Somebody made a comment, said, oh, you just fearmonger to all your old people. First of all, those old people are established. They have lived a whole life of experiences. Most of them have had lifelong careers. Most of them are actually respected members of our community. A lot of them are in high up positions. I would rather have that than a bunch of 18-year-olds like doing TikTok. So our audience is actually very respectable. The people that are here, you would be surprised at how high some of these people are, because they're thinking the same way you are. There are judges and police and firefighters and Congress and Senate that think the same way you do. Because guess what? You're thinking in the way that everybody should be thinking. You should be looking at the facts. And none of us are always right. But one thing we do have is we have each other, and we can get along no matter what. even if we disagree. I get that people are not going to like this show or be with it forever, but my place isn't here to tell you exactly what's going to happen. Our place is here to analyze everything that's happening and to warn as many people as possible, because we all believe, almost all of us, and if you don't believe this, then you don't have to be here. I believe something huge is coming. And that's a real belief. That's in the bottom of my heart. I am trying to prepare my family and everyone around me for the events that are to come. At the same time, we still have to live life. We can't just give up. We can't stop life. We can't sell our houses and go out in the woods. We just need to keep going. But if you're spiritually and mentally prepared for what is coming, you are so much better off. People call it fear-mongering, but that's because they're afraid. You're the only one afraid. The people that are saying we're fear-mongering, you're the only one that's afraid. Most of us are here because we want to know what's going on. We want to look at every angle. We want to look at every story, no matter how weird, because we're not the kind of people that say you're weird for thinking that. It doesn't matter what you think here. You can think whatever you want here. Because guess what? How many times in the last 3 years have we been surprised by something we never thought would be possible? Oh, the moon is in our atmosphere. Oh, dark matter is completely changed now, and all of our science books need to change now. How many times have things been flip-flopped and completely changed? So I'd rather be looking at everything and trying to prepare the best I can. So I thank everybody that supports us as a whole. We don't have support of the main society, and main society looks at us like we're a bunch of nuttos. Especially a platform that has continually changed things to where they could still make a buck at the same time as others not. So thank you, everybody that does. Sam99 Lilleholm, thank you for subscribing. Paul Lacrosse, thank you for subscribing just now. I appreciate everybody today. Dex, let's talk about the web only.
And before we do that, there was one other headline. The first confirmed U.S. Case of that new variant is in California.
So I have
I think
it.
that's all we have to say.
No,
But,
so I have it, but hold on. It's going to take a minute to pull up. So if you want to go over the web only, I'll get it loaded.
I'll do the web only. So head over to marfooglenews.com and click on the thumbnail for tonight's show and scroll down to web only content, and you'll see the rest of the story. Everything else that we can't cover or won't cover on the show, or it's too hot for TV, take a look there. There's a couple of things, some interesting tweets coming out of Australia. I don't know. They're not completely validated, but they seem to be coming around. And there's definitely one from Germany there showing a visual of what it looks like to be, a divided supermarket. Kind of an interesting view for those here in America that don't experience that. Plenty of other things going on. A lot of politics, even stuff with Kyle in the news and other things. So go take a look. marfooglenews.com. Click on the thumbnail for the show and scroll down to web only content. And for those of you on YouTube, just click the first link in the description, or it'll be in live chat. You can click the link there.
And I want to remind you, so does this not remind you of 2019 at the very end of 2019 or the beginning of 2020? Do you remember when I went to the hospital and visited the first U.S. case?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, people wake up. I mean, it's super, super in your face. So, over on the website, another thing kind of crazy, if it's true, right? Who knows if any of this is. Thousands of bags delivered to churches in Hackham, South Australia. I don't know if that's true. Again, lots of crazy stuff on the internet. By the way, the and the un separated with a fence in a supermarket. Okay, do you remember the Berlin Wall? Kind of getting some Berlin Wall-y vibes here. Like that picture, that should be in Time magazine right there. That should be the picture of the year. I hope people never forget what's happening. Have a great night. Thank you, everybody over on DLive that supported tonight. I appreciate you. Again, over on YouTube, thank you, Theta Moon Me. Again, thank you. Believe you are one of the top 3 tonight supporters over on YouTube. Winton Dupree, thank you for last show. Amanda Evanson, thank you. And thank you, James Fox, Bill P., Red Pilled, and then that Gen X dude. Thank you. And then Delaware Sasquatch, thank you for your PayPal. I appreciate that. And then Lead Dispenser, I appreciate you as well, the top 3. I'm gonna say good night, Dex, and thank you. And again,
much love, great show.
Can't wait to see you tomorrow. We're gonna have more news. We're gonna have more stories. Make sure to share this out with all of your friends on Facebook and every other crazy platform that hates us. Thank you, and thank you for doing so in advance. Love you, Dex. Have a good night. It's now time for the shoutro. It's not an outro. It's not a shout out. It's a shoutro. They hate you now. Ooh, they hate you now. Ooh, they hate you now. Ooh, they hate you now. Hello, goodbye. Hello, goodbye. Hello, goodbye. Hello, goodbye. Hello, goodbye. Everybody knows me. G on the 7 boy, Trinity, Red Pill, High Ho, Kermit the Frog, yeah. What is going on, Trinity? Trinity, I love Jesus forever. Occam's Razor, Athena de Guzman. 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 I got to bring on the light, I'm gonna bring it on the day, on the 57CK05. Hello, goodbye. Hello, goodbye. Hello, goodbye. Hello, goodbye. Hello. Marfoogle winner, Marfoogle winner, Marfoogle it down. Kaboom goes kaboom and Marfoogle news on weeknights. Marfoogle news on weeknights. Marfoogle news on weeknights. Marfoogle news on weeknights. All right, we found one to get rid of. Hold on. Here's a fresh one for Theta Mooned Me.
Hello,
Lady Zalaroo.
Eli Salinas.
Bring back on down when you're not la power. Roaming wolf and the major downless for breakfast and the Marvia. I hold your day, you know, I know rip car readiness. Steven McMahon, I know he's sorry, and they do what they can. With the doll grove, going back around, now they show. With the diamond wanna now, Mrs. Marv and Mrs. Cow. Philosopher all night, extinguish Shiffy and everyone. Mine will be da, no me dap 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 da da. Oh, dip do, dip dap dap dip it oh. Oh, dip do, dip dap dip it do da. Oh, dip do, dip dap dip dap do dip do, dip do, dip dap dap dip it oh. Oh, deep down, deep down, deep deep. No, deep down, deep down, no, deep down, do deep down, no, deep down, deep down, deep down, no, deep down, deep down, deep down, no, deep down, no, deep down. I said, where in the world? I said, where in the world is a reside? And oh, she's so lately busy. With that, a Gen X dude, and out your that you know. With the Jacqueline, you and the Scooby-Doo. I do right, everybody. I flew all the way from here to the Europe, and it was all the same. It was corrupt to corrupt government, and everybody's covering up. Do, dee, do, dee, do, da, 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 do, dee, do, dee, do, dee, do, da, do, dee, do.